Unveiling Carl Jung's dark truth, the empath was a child denied the right to be selfish forever. In a world where secrets fester and shadows whisper, one truth lingers, too dark to ignore. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, believed that within each of us lies an empath, a child yearning to break free. But what if that child's desires were stifled, buried beneath layers of expectation and duty? This was not just a theory, it was a chilling reality. A reality that would shake the very foundations of understanding empathy. As the clock struck midnight, eerie whispers floated through the air outside Jung's home, as if even the winds carried the weight of forgotten tales. A single candle flickered, illuminating the faint outlines of ancient books that lined the walls, their spines cracked and weathered like the memories they held. On one shelf, a dusty tome caught the candlelight, its title barely legible, The Sacrifice of Self, Empathy's Cost. Then there were the unusual sightings. Locals spoke of flickering shadows that danced in his garden at dusk, casting reflections that appeared almost human. Murmurs rippled through townsfolk. Was Jung summoning spirits? Was he trying to awaken the empath within himself, the child he once was? Eyes widened and pulses raced as gossip spread like wildfire. But what struck true fear was the discovery of a forgotten diary hidden beneath the floorboards of his study. Its entries tinged with desperation revealed a spiraling descent into madness. The empath, once vibrant, now felt shackled by the very essence that made them who they were. Each scrawl of the pen spoke of a struggle so raw it could choke a soul. "I am not allowed to feel. I am not allowed to be selfish," he wrote, the words heavy with regret. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The darkness deepened as visions of an unknown past crept closer. No one knew what Jung truly sacrificed to unlock the mysteries of the human psyche, but the shadows seemed to demand answers. A distant scream shattered the silence, echoing from the heart of his garden, where something or someone was awakening. The night thickened with tension, sending shivers down spines. Who lurked in those shadows? What truths were buried in the earth, waiting to be unearthed, or worse, unleashed? As the candle flickered one last time, the darkness beckoned the answers shrouded in dread. What have we awakened? The garden whispered secrets, the rustling leaves almost pleading for attention. Jung stood at his window, pulse pounding, heart racing. Shadows danced beneath the moonlight, twisting and twirling as if they were laughing at his fears. He yearned to turn away, to retreat behind the safety of his books. But something, an unfamiliar urge, pulled him closer to the terrifying unknown outside. That he stepped out onto the cold, damp earth, the chill biting through the thin fabric of his robe. The screams still rang in his ears, and he shivered as if they clung to his very skin. Each step further into the garden felt like an invitation to dread, every blade of grass whispering warnings in a language he didn't understand. A flicker of movement caught his eye, a figure scuttling near the old oak tree. It looked like a person, but it also resembled a shadow carved from nightmares. Jung squinted, heart thumping louder. The figure paused, head tilting as if it sensed his gaze. Was it real, or was his mind succumbing to the madness he wrote about? "Show yourself," he called, voice trembling despite his bravado. The shadow hesitated, then fled deeper into the darkness. His instincts screamed at him to follow. He stumbled after it, dread mixing with an insatiable curiosity. With every step, the memories flooded back, sharp and painful, like shards of glass nestled in his psyche. The child within him, the one who yearned for expression, felt stifled in his chest. Was this creature a manifestation of that child? As he reached the tree, something caught his attention, a glimmer in the soil. Jung knelt, fingers trembling as he brushed the dirt away. It was a small, rusted locket. When he opened it, a photograph slid out, an image of a young boy with strikingly familiar eyes, staring back at him with a haunting innocence. The resemblance was uncanny. His breaths grew shallow, realization crashing over him in waves. The child in the picture was him, a version of himself he thought long buried. What had he forgotten? What had suppressed this part of him so mercilessly? Just then, the wind howled, the shadows swirling in concert, as if primed for revelation. Your truth awaits, a whisper taunted from the depths of the garden, sending chills down Jung's spine. He looked around, half expecting a figure to emerge but finding only darkness wrapping around him like a cloak. Suddenly, the past roared to life within him. Memories spilled forth like an avalanche, his childhood laughter replaced by harsh criticisms, desires drowned under societal expectations. Each recollection felt like a nail in a coffin, sealing away the empathy that once flowed freely. The diary echoed in his mind. I am not allowed to feel. The shadows surged, pulsating with a life of their own. They closed in, and with them came the weight of his repressed emotions, anger, joy, loss, all clawing for acknowledgement. Suddenly, a pair of hands emerged from the shadows, grasping at him. His heart raced in a mix of fear and exhilaration. Join us, the whispers chanted, a chorus tainted with longing and desperation. Jung felt himself being pulled towards something, an answer, a fate he could no longer avoid. Just as he grasped the idea, that child's face flashed before him, growing clearer with each beat of his heart. What did he need to confront? What truth lay entwined in the shadows? Just then, the ground beneath him trembled, sending shockwaves through the night. A fissure cracked open, darkness yawning wide like a hungry beast. The shadows beckoned him in, but what awaited him on the other side? He stood at the precipice between light and dark, heart racing. The deeper he stepped into this labyrinth of his past, the more unclear the path to freedom became. What truths would be uncovered, and at what cost? With a deep breath, he plunged forward into the abyss beyond the shadows. What had he really unleashed within himself? The darkness enveloped Jung like icy water, deep and suffocating. He felt the ground give way beneath his feet, and as he tumbled into the void, his pulse quickened to a frantic beat. The world around him twisted, shadows morphing into shapes he couldn't quite discern. His thoughts raced. What comes next? Was he falling into his past, or had he stepped into a new realm of existence? The whispers swirled around him, becoming a chaotic symphony that heightened his terror and intrigue. They curled around him, tugging at the fraying edges of his sanity. Remember, they urged, voices like splintered glass. Then, he landed not with a crash, but softly, as if the ground had caught him. He opened his eyes to an eerily familiar setting. The garden from his childhood lay sprawled before him, but it was different. It was vibrant yet shadowed, frozen in twilight, where the sun and moon seemed to fight for dominion. What is this place? He murmured, taking in the beauty and terror of it all. Before him stood the old oak tree, but now it was enormous, its gnarled roots twisting like vines around memories long forgotten. That spot beneath the branches beckoned him, inviting more than just a return to childhood. It called for reckoning. A child's laughter echoed through the garden, pure and innocent but undercut by a tinge of sadness. The sound felt like a knife, puncturing the veil of his stoic demeanor. Jung followed the sound, drawn towards its source, his heart a drum of anticipation. At a distance, he spotted a boy playing by the tree. The same boy from the photograph, the one whose eyes were a mirror of his own. This version of him wore a carefree expression, enchanting yet stark against the darkness creeping in around them. Hey! Jung shouted, eerily giddy yet terrified, as he rushed closer. It's me. It's Jung. The boy turned, eyes wide with surprise. He looked at Jung with a mixture of wonder and fear. You're not supposed to be here, he whispered, his voice shaky, echoing the uncertainty Jung felt deep inside. Why not? Jung pressed, the urgency of the moment suffusing his voice. What do I need to remember? Because the boy hesitated, glancing at the gathering shadows. You left. You were scared. You let them silence you. Silence me? Jung felt a knot form in his gut. Who? The whisperers, he said, a strange sadness crossing his young face. The ones who said you had to be strong. You forgot joy, you forgot laughter, you buried me to be safe. The darkness tightened around them, shadows morphing into figures, ones with familiar, haunting features. Parents, friends, strangers, each a fragment of his past. They loomed over the boy, their anguished expressions twisting as if asking for forgiveness, or perhaps judgment. No! Jung shouted, horror dawning. I want to let them take you. The boy's laughter faded, replaced by the deeper echoes of regret. But you already let them take me and yourself. You need to choose. Step forward, or stay locked behind the walls of fear you built. Jung felt the ground tremor again, the choice palpable like a heavy mist hanging thick in the air. His heart ached. Fear gripped him, coiling around his chest as the shadows shifted closer, demanding attention, forcing confrontation. Choose. The boy urged, reaching towards him, eyes pleading. With his heart thundering, Jung looked at the child and then at the shapes in the dark. Realization surged through him, a connection with the innocence he denied for so long. The longing to embrace that memory ignited something long buried within him. Could he face the darkness? Could he bring light back to what was lost? Trembling, he took a step forward, feeling the weight of his past pulling him back. Come with me. Jung pleaded, but the boy's face flickered, uncertainty etched in every line. Remember, he whispered, before collapsing into the shadows. Jung's breath hitched. In that moment, it dawned on him, if he didn't confront the whispers, if he didn't reclaim what was stolen, he would be lost forever. The shadows closed in again, hungry. Face me. Jung screamed into the abyss, a raw edge of desperation coating his words. What awaited him if he took that final plunge? Would he find a way to reclaim the laughter he had lost, or was he destined to drown in his own fear forever? The ground trembled again, a crack echoing through the garden, one that split the earth wide open, revealing the depths of his own soul. What will be left when it's over? He thought, as the darkness loomed, poised to swallow him whole. The crack in the ground pulsed with a lifelike energy, urging Jung to step closer. Sweat beaded on his brow, the pressure building around his chest. The shadows throbbed with anticipation, an unspoken warning racing through him. They were waiting, hungry for a response, a cry to silence the festering fears that tormented him. Choose. He shouted again, his voice echoing as if the very garden was challenging him to confront his truth, to face the whispers of his past. The earth shook violently, sending a wave of fear coursing through him. With deep breaths, Jung steadied himself, forced his feet to inch forward. Each step felt monumental, his heart echoing against the darkness that crept between the cracked soil and gnarled roots. Remember, the boy's voice rang out, piercing through the silence, dancing along the edges of his consciousness. The haunting laughter tugged insistently at his mind. It was the sound of joy interwoven with the pain of being forgotten, but what was this joy? The memories broke through skipping stones by the riverbank, chasing fireflies under the summer sky, laughter that once lit up his world. And then he saw it. The moment when he had huddled in the corner, aged too far before his years, tears staining his cheeks, because he believed that vulnerability was weakness. Jung froze, realizing the roots of his fears tangled tightly around him, echoing the whispers that had suffocated his spirit long ago. Please, he implored, fighting to hold on to the resolve surging in his chest. I need to remember. The boy's glimmering presence flickered before him, fragile against the tide of shadows. You can't remember if you don't face it. Hold me. Hold the light within you. Break the cycle. Break what cycle? Jung trembled, uncertainty coursing through him. I don't know how. The garden swirled in response, its vibrant colors dimming. The looming shadows twisted toward him, faces he recognized morphing into grotesque reminders of what he had sacrificed. They reached toward him like clawed hands, but there was something inviting lurking within their depths, his own past, begging to be understood. Suddenly, a piercing shriek ripped through the ambience, shattering his resolve. "You are nothing without us." It rang, echoing through his mind like glass breaking. "No!" Jung shouted, lifting his hands in defiance. "You don't own me." As if in response, the fractures in the earth widened. A deep rumble rose, and he could feel the darkness pulsating, vibrating with discontent. Bright flashes of memories ignited a fire within him, his laughter, the warmth of love, the feeling of enoughness which had once filled him. He exhaled, refusing to let fear take root again. With newfound determination, he lunged toward the boy. "I will not let you fade. I won't forget you again." Their eyes locked. Jung felt the boy's essence surge through him, longing for liberation. But just as the shadows began to recede, a fierce wind howled through the garden, pushing him back. The boy's face twisted with urgency, and in that fleeting moment, Jung understood. The voices were not just echoes of his past, they were the parts of himself he had banished, all clamoring for recognition. "Choose." The child cried out again, this time chosen words pouring from his own heart. "Choose to embrace me." The ground shook again, sending sensations of dread spiraling through him. He had to choose, the fear that had cocooned him for so long or rebirth into the brightness that lay just beyond reach. Jung clenched his fists, his heart pounding a rhythm of resolve, racing against the chaos that threatened to pull him back. Could he trust in the strength of his dreams? In the fragile laughter of a forgotten child? "Hold on!" he bellowed, a raw determination surging through him. "I'm coming to reclaim my joy." And as he felt the boundary between light and darkness tremble beneath him, he knew the true battle was about to unfold. But with one last glare from the shadows, the temptation to slip back into silence lingered, seducing him into a preordained destiny. What lay on the other side? Of surrender? Would he have the courage to walk through the veil, or would it shatter him? The wind howled like a wounded beast, stinging Jung's face as he staggered back against the tide of shadows that clawed for his ankles. Each gust carried whispers that twisted his thoughts, unsettling fragments of guilt and regret that had layered over his spirit like sediment on a long-forgotten shoreline. "Choose. Choose." The repetition wrapped around him, a mantra of desperation. The boy's luminescent eyes shone through the encroaching darkness, reflecting a fierce hope. Jung felt the pulse of that light beat rhythmically within him, a lifeline threatening to snap under the weight of his fears. Jung's world shrank further as the ground opened wide beneath him. He felt the abyss beckoning, a sinister smile forming in its depths. Was this the end? The shadows laughed, mocking his hesitation, urging him to fold back into their comforting embrace. Memories shook loose, swirling around him, those carefree days of sunlight and laughter, ripped away like branches in a storm. How easy it would be to give in. But he didn't want ease. He wanted to dance again, feel the warmth of friendship without the chill of dread. He wanted to reclaim not just memories but the very right to feel joy without shame. "Stop!" he cried, more a command than a plea. "I want to let you take me. I want to let you define me." The air shifted, something was changing. The garden seemed to hold its breath, hushed as if waiting for a decision. Jung's heart raced. Chaos surged around him, yet deep down, where the boy's light pulsed faintly, he sensed a flicker of strength. "Remember," the boy's voice transformed, gentle yet insistent, filled with the essence of forgotten laughter. "Embrace your truth." Tears stung Jung's eyes as his feet moved involuntarily toward the void. The shadows lurched, drawing closer, but he felt the boy's spirit intertwining with his, tethering him to something real and vital. A fierce heat coursed through him, igniting a recognition that cut through the fear. "I choose to see," he asserted, arching his back defiantly. "I choose to feel." A blinding flash erupted around him, and the boy's face lit up with a radiant smile. Suddenly, Jung was engulfed in a torrent of memory. He stood on a riverbank once more, sunlight erupting in a golden blaze above him. He could hear the laughter again, and it was not just the echoes of the past, it was his own voice joining in. 13 summers melded into one radiant moment. Freedom wrapped around him like a well-worn blanket, but shadows retreated only to regroup, angry and relentless, tugging at his resolve with promises of comfort. "You're weak without us," they hissed, their voices now a sinister swirl. "Remember what you lost, remember the pain." "No!" Jung shrieked, pushing against their grip. His heart soared and plummeted, the weight of uncertainty pulling him toward despair. "Your pain is not my pain. I will not cradle your scars anymore." The shadows hesitated, a shift in the air signaling doubt. He felt the boy's spirit pulsing stronger than ever, a beacon resisting the darkness. Jung focused on that light and let it fill him, pushing against every sliver of doubt, every whisper of threat. With a surge of determination, he propelled himself forward, deeper into the crack. The swirling nightmare transformed, and he saw past the grotesque figures into the hurt little boy they had once been. His heart broke fresh, a flash of empathy igniting the pieces of his self that had been buried too deep for too long. In that moment of clarity, Jung realized the truth: he was not alone. As he embraced that knowledge, a blinding flare ignited in front of him, a shattering moment that demanded everything he had, and just as he thought he would break through, a surprisingly familiar voice gripped his soul. "What if you lose yourself forever?" The fracture trembled violently again, a rift opening beneath him, and Jung realized the surface was thin. His breath quickened, and he looked into the abysses, knowing they held secrets that could splinter his very essence. Would he leap into the unknown, trusting the light? Or would he let fear swallow him whole? The fracture beneath him widened, revealing depths so black they seemed to drink in the light. Jung's heart raced. He could feel the pull of the shadows, their grasp tightening around him like chains. Desperation clawed at his throat as he peered into the void. Could he truly leap into the dark and trust that light would catch him? "Do you honestly believe you can escape us?" The voice slithered through the air, cold and biting. It echoed with the memories of every mistake, every regret that had haunted him. Jung's breath came in sharp gasps, that familiar fear creeping back, in the fear of being abandoned, of losing the battle against himself, but alongside that fear, a flicker of defiance ignited within him. "I am more than my pain," he shouted, his voice strong enough to pierce the weight of doubt. With that proclamation, he felt the boy's spirit surge within him, pushing back against the shadows that sought to claim him. The warmth of the boy's light enveloped him like a protective shield. Jung stepped closer to the edge, and though the darkness loomed, a spark of hope began to fill the air. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of something within the shadows, a figure, tiny and shivering, wrapped in darkness. His heart sank. It was the boy he had once been, lost, scared, and desperate to feel loved. Clenching his fists, Jung fought against the torrents swirling around him. "I will not abandon you." With those words, the fractures began to shimmer with light, illuminating the dim corners of his fears. "You're real," he gasped, recognizing the trembling child's face, reflecting his own lost innocence. "I want to let you go back. We'll face this together." The shadows screamed in fury, but Jung pushed forward. "I'm stronger than you think. I choose to embrace every part of myself, every scar." The boy in the shadows looked up, his wide eyes sparkling now with tentative belief. Just as Jung clasped his hands out toward the child, the earth beneath him quaked violently. "You're a fool," the darkness hissed. "You think love can shield you? You'll only end up shattered." Jung's mind teetered on the edge of panic, but just then, he recalled each moment of laughter, every sun-drenched day full of joy. The warmth radiated through him, the truth awakening in his heart. "You can't break me. I choose to heal." The air rippled with intensity, the boy's glow flaring brighter. Jung summoned every ounce of resolve and leapt into the void, ready to pull the little one from the shadows. Time seemed to stretch, exhilaration and dread entwined. He felt as if he was about to burst free, but just then, darkness surged up to meet him, wrapping around him like a serpent. You shouldn't have taken that leap. It snarled as tendrils of shadow gripped him, pulling him downwards. Jung's vision blurred, and chaos filled his ears. He fought against the dark coils, his heart pounding. Every ounce of strength he had built was tested as he was yanked deeper into despair. With a flicker of light in his mind, he pictured the boy's face, hope incarnate. I want to let you go, he shouted, as the shadows howled in rage. But was it too late? Just as hope began to fade, Jung felt a sudden, powerful sense of clarity. The flicker of light expanded until it almost blinded him. We'll fight, he declared loudly, together. As the shadows tightened their grip, Jung sensed an explosion of light erupting around him. It spread like wildfire, illuminating the darkness, threatening to consume it. But then, silence fell. The light wavered, and Jung found himself standing on a thin precipice, a perfect balance between light and darkness. At that moment, he could only wonder what awaited him on the other side. Was he truly free, or was he about to face the darkest truth of all the hidden secrets within himself he had ever been afraid to confront? The moment was electric. Jung stood on that precipice, heart hammering like a wild drum in his chest. In that precarious balance, he felt the power of his vulnerability intertwined with the hope of the boy he had once been, flickering at the edge of his vision. A timid plea, desperately urgent. Come on, the boy pleaded, eyes wide, glistening with an innocence that felt both familiar and foreign. We can't stay here. Despite the turmoil raging inside him, Jung could feel threads of understanding weaving into clarity. The darkness roared around them, yet he felt an inkling of strength rising from the boy's presence. Each moment of doubt was like a weight, but intertwined with the boy's shimmering light, they became bearable. He's right, Jung whispered, shaking his head to clear the cobwebs of despair. I can't let my past hold me captive anymore. With a forward lurch, he took a bold step onto the narrow edge. But the shadows bubbled angrily beneath him, writhing and thrashing like a caged beast. Foolish boy. The darkness hissed. You think you can move beyond your pain? Watch me. Jung retorted, his voice ringing out defiantly. He felt the boy's hand brush against his own, steadying him, igniting a fire within his chest. With every ounce of courage he could muster, Jung focused on that flame, intensifying it. He imagined the kindness he had received, the friendships forged, moments colored by laughter. The joy surged between them, wrapping around Jung, creating an invisible tether binding him to his own love and essence, but the shadows had no intention of relinquishing their hold. They lashed out, splintering the ground beneath Jung's feet. You cannot escape what you are. They screamed in a cacophony of voices, the echoes of his past haunting him like a dark chorus. They brought forth images of failures, instances where love had faltered, and times when he had chosen to hide rather than confront those he loved. Each recollection hit him like a hammer, reverberating through his chest. No, enough. Jung shouted, tightening his grip on the boy's tiny hand, forcing the flood of benefits and strengths he had gained to overtake the voices of darkness. I will not drown in your lies. Suddenly, a burst of light broke through the gloom. It was radiant and pure, scattering the shadows like leaves in a sudden storm. Jung felt the exhilarating rush of energy, lifting both him and the boy. Thank you for bringing me along. The child beamed, a twinkle of pure joy igniting his face, but in that moment, the dark entity hesitated, growing quiet as if to regroup. The very air crackled in tension, and Jung felt the stinging weight of the darkness still lurking, plotting. What would happen if I let go? Jung whispered, icy fear creeping back in. The prospect haunted him. Would the boy vanish back into the abyss when he unclenched his fist? Trust yourself. The boy urged. You owe it to both of us. It was a simple phrase, yet it reverberated through Jung's being, finding deep roots. Did he dare to trust? Could he finally be free without the burden of his childhood fears? His breath quickened again as he wrestled with the decision. Clenching his jaw, he realized this was it. Only by facing what lay ahead and surrendering the past could he hope to find peace. And so, with resolve as thick and heavy as iron, he released his hand, falling back, but not before the boy shouted, "Together!" Everything shifted. The light began to wrap around them, growing fierce and bright. Jung held his breath as the darkness shrieked in fury, their hold slipping, unraveling as he and the boy hurtled toward a new world of both uncertainty and promise. What new challenges awaited them on the other side? Would they finally confront the Shadow's secrets, or would they stumble blindly into an even greater nightmare? The world exploded into vibrant colors as Jung and the boy surged through the light. For a brief moment, their laughter mixed with the echoes of fading darkness. They landed softly, somehow whole, but disoriented. The terrain around them was a kaleidoscope of bright hues and warm breezes, unlike the suffocating shadows they had escaped. Yet, underneath the beauty lay a sense of foreboding, a gentle hum of anxiety that lurked around every corner. "Where are we?" Jung asked, scanning the horizon filled with crystalline trees that sparkled like diamonds in the sunlight. "I think we're in a new place," the boy exclaimed, his voice bubbling with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "But we have to be careful. The shadows won't let us go easily." Jung swallowed hard, the realization settling over him like a heavy quilt. The darkness wasn't merely behind him, its tendrils possibly crept silently through this strange new world, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. As they ventured further, the sights were mesmerizing. Birds with vivid plumage flitted about, chirping sweet melodies. Every step felt liberating, and Jung knew it was a stark contrast to the choking weight of despair he had just escaped. Yet, there was a thin veil of tension in the air, something primal lurking just out of sight. "Look!" The boy pointed ahead. Jung squinted at the cluster of trees and saw movement. Emerging from the foliage, a figure stepped into view. It was a woman, her features sharp, eyes bright but haunted, as if torn between worlds. She held a staff that glimmered like the stars above, and with each step she took, the ground pulsed with life. "Who are you?" Jung asked, instinctively taking a cautious step back, an echo of his past fears resounding within him. "I am Aliana," she said, her voice melodic yet firm. "Guardian of this realm. You've crossed into eternity, but beware. The shadows still cling to your essence, latching onto your doubts and failures." Jung's chest tightened. "But we thought we had escaped." "You've only just begun the journey," she interrupted, her gaze piercing. "The more you run from your past, the stronger the darkness will become. You must confront that which you refuse to embrace." Jung exchanged a glance with the boy, confusion swirling in his mind. Perhaps it wasn't enough to merely seek freedom, they needed to face the very fears he had fought to abandon. "What do I have to do?" Jung asked, heart racing as the weight of Aliana's words settled deep inside him. "You will face trials," she said. "Each one a reflection of your scars. Only by overcoming them can you truly arrive at peace." At the mention of trials, dread clawed at his stomach. What sort of trials awaited him? Would they pull him back into despair? Suddenly, the ground beneath them quaked, and dark shapes began to emerge from the shadows cast by the trees. Figures danced in the twilight, twisted reflections of Jung's past sins and unfulfilled desires. Their laughter echoed like a mocking chorus, taunting him, ready to ensnare him in despair again. "Stay close," he shouted, but the boy's hand slipped from his grasp as he took a step forward, captivated by the shadows that twirled around him. "Please, come back." Jung reached out, but the encroaching shadows coalesced, a swirling mass that pulled the boy deeper into their grasp. Jung felt an icy fear wrap around his heart. Would the boy be lost to this darkness, the same way Jung had once been? "This is your trial," Aliana declared, stepping forward, her staff raised high, casting a brilliant shield against the encroaching shadows. "You must reclaim him, but first confront what you see." Jung's breath caught in his throat as he faced the shadows that had haunted him all his life. His heart pounded, the urgent need to protect the boy clamoring within him. He had to act and fast. "Stand your ground," Aliana commanded. "Face them, Jung. Your strength lies in your story." Jung felt the heat of determination rising through him. The shadows mocked him with each remorseful memory, but now they stood between him and his hope. Could he face this again and come out stronger? Just as he solidified his resolve to push through, one of the shadows stepped forward, taking the shape of a familiar face. The resemblance was striking, but the malevolent grin twisted everything he loved into anguish. "Run, Jung!" It hissed, its voice a chilling echo of his own fears. "You can't save him or yourself." Could Jung confront what haunted him for so long? The boy's desperate plea rang in his ears, urging him to act. "Hold on. I'm coming," Jung shouted, ready to take on everything. The world ignited with chaos. As he lunged toward the shadows, the question blared in his mind: would he finally free himself and the boy from the grasp of despair, or would the shadows encase them forever? Jung surged forward, heart pounding, fear coiling tightly in his chest. The shadows writhed around him, a living mass of doubt and anxiety, their laughter echoing in his ears. Each step felt like a hammer on a fragile glass, threatening to shatter at any moment. "Stay back," he bellowed at the familiar shadow. It loomed larger now, a specter of his past, the face twisted and warped, yet deeply recognizable. The fear it inspired clutched at him tighter than anything he had ever faced. Memories came flooding back, moments when he had failed, when he had thought only of himself, when he had turned away from love. "Do you think you can save the boy?" it sneered, its eyes gleaming with a darkness that seeped into the very ground beneath them. "You've always been a coward." With that taunt, a sharp rush of anger ignited inside Jung, cutting through the paralyzing fear. "No," he roared, feeling a swell of energy surge from his core. This time, he would not back down. This was his trial. He had the power to change its outcome. Aliana's voice surged through him, a lifeline in the chaos. "Remember, your strength emerges when you accept the truth of who you are." The shadows lunged, darting toward the boy, who was still wrapped in their tendrils. Jung could see the boy's eyes widening in fear, his small body trembling. With fierce resolve, Jung charged forth, the chaos swirling around him, amplifying his determination. "Get away from him!" Jung shouted, defiance roaring in his throat. The shadows hissed at his words, recoiling briefly, as if stung by the conviction in his voice. He thrust his arms out, recalling his own mistakes not with shame, but as stepping stones. Each misstep had shaped him, they didn't define him. He was not the frightened boy who had trapped himself in darkness. He was a protector now. The shadow that resembled his past roared back, curling its form to lunge at Jung. "You think you can escape this? You are doomed to repeat these failures." In that moment, Jung was confronted with a choice: crumble under the weight of the insidious doubt or embrace it. He lifted his chin, sense of purpose swelling within him. "You do not own me," he shouted, feeling the strength of his heart crash against the shadows. The ground shook violently as he closed his eyes and summoned every painful memory, the disappointment, the regret, everything that made him human. Instead of crumbling, he chose to channel it. The memories transformed from chains to fuel, igniting a primal fire of clarity. With a guttural yell, he thrust his hands forward. "I will not let you take him. I choose love over fear." A wave of energy cascaded from him, incandescent and blinding. The shadows bucked and shrieked, their forms twisting and contorting, losing grip on the boy. Jung's heart raced as light arced between them, severing the dark connection. In that flicker, he saw the boy's face shift from fear to hope, as if tethered to Jung's newfound strength. But just as suddenly, the shadows roared, furious and relentless. They wouldn't let go so easily. They surged toward Jung, a whirlpool of darkness intent on engulfing him whole. Jung felt the edges of despair creep back, biting at his resolve. But he could see the boy was free from the grasp, his eyes lit with determination. He couldn't fail now. Not when they were so close. Hold on. Jung yelled, ready to launch himself into the fray, a desperate bid for victory against the chaos. Suddenly, Eliana's staff glimmered brighter, a beam of radiant light seeping into the darkness. You must bind them to the truth, she commanded, her voice resonating deep within Jung. Before he could react, the shadows lunged again, howling their promises of despair. Would he find the truth in time to save himself and the boy, or would the abyss swallow them both once more? The shadows twisted violently, their dark forms stretching toward Jung like desperate fingers reaching for freedom. Heart pounding, he grasped the truth he had bared. His journey was only just beginning. The remnants of his childhood wrestled within him, a fragile balance of light and darkness. But he felt empowered, the boy's bravery fueling his resolve. Now is the moment. Eliana's voice rang clear, guiding him to step forward. The shadows recoiled at the sound of her authority, but Jung stood firm, determination coursing through his veins. He would not surrender, not now. Steeling himself, he summoned all the memories that shaped him. I've walked through pain. I've faced my fears. He declared, voice echoing with newfound strength. I learned from mistakes, they do not define me. I am more than the boy who hid. As Jung spoke, light emanated from his core, piercing the gloom that swirled before him. The shadows hissed, their voices turning frenzied, desperate to reclaim their hold. But Jung felt the warmth of hope radiate, threading through the darkness like a lifeline. You are nothing but fragments of my past. He shouted, the words potent as they cut through the tension, reverberating in the air. With each assertion, he anchored the boy beside him deeper into the light. The warmth spiraled between them, an unbreakable bond igniting within the depths of despair. The boy's innocent eyes shone, awakening a fierce hope that transcended the chaos. Together, they faced the darkness, united by their truth. I will save us. Jung spoke, and with that commitment, he lunged toward the darkest of shadows. A great roar erupted, shaking the very fabric of the world around them. But Jung held tight to the boy's hand, knowing they would overcome. As if by magic, wisps of light burst forth from Jung's heart, enveloping both of them in a cocoon of warmth, pushing back against the encroaching shadows. Driven by the need to protect his younger self, Jung summoned a final surge of hope and love. I embrace who I am. I won't let you take him from me. With fervor, he extended his arms wide, embracing the shadows as he had missed embracing himself for so long. The shadows howled in an orchestra of rage, swirling in a tempest, threatening to unravel him again. But Jung's heart beat with a clarity that surged through the turmoil like a beacon. Fear is not my master. Love is. With that powerful manifesto, a blinding light erupted from his core, a radiant explosion that shattered the surface of darkness. Time slowed, the twisted shadows recoiling in horror, unable to withstand the pure essence of Jung's truth. The boy gasped, wonder lighting up his face as their bond coalesced into a beautiful union of light and love. In that moment, Jung understood, love and acceptance were stronger than any regret or shadow of despair, and then, with an uplifting rush, the shadows began to recede, sucked back into the void, shrieking melancholy cries as they faded into nothingness. Jung and the boy stood tall, encased in the brilliance they had created together, a glowing shield of resilience and joy. Breathless and trembling, Jung felt tears well in his eyes. They weren't tears of sorrow but ones of catharsis, a release that clutched at his heart, washing away the years of silence. We did it, he smiled at the boy, who mirrored him with pure delight. From beyond the veil of light, Eliana appeared, a knowing smile gracing her lips. You have embraced your journey. You found your truth. Jung nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. And I brought him with me, he said, his voice warm and thick with emotion. The new world glimmered around them, promising adventure and healing. It felt light and fresh, ripe with possibility. Jung looked down at the boy, his heart swelling with hope for the future. What's next? He asked, excitement spilling from his voice. It's time to live, the boy replied, joy exploding in his eyes. together. Jung took a deep breath, feeling the cool, sweet air fill his lungs. The shadows had no power here. The journey ahead would be theirs to embrace, every moment dancing with freedom. They would build something beautiful, something unbreakable. And with that, hand in hand, they stepped forward into the light. For the first time, Jung felt truly alive, unburdened, and free. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.